First up, we have the Governor of the Central Bank, Dr. Indrajit Kumaraswamy, saying that Sri Lanka is aiming to raise another $2 billion before a presidential election expected to be held in December.
Speaking to Bloomberg, the governor said Sri Lanka's central bank will consider all options to support the economy in the wake of last month's terrorist bomb attack, including reducing the reserve ratio at its next policy meeting. He added that all options are there. It could be an SRR, it could be a policy rate reduction, or it could be a combination of the two. Dr. Kumaraswamy said the rupee should remain fairly stable as long as the global environment is favorable, with the Federal Reserve pausing in its rate hiking cycle. He also added that up to $1 billion could be raised from a dollar bond with a World Bank guarantee, and that Sri Lanka plans to also issue samurai bonds with a guarantee from the Japan Bank for International Cooperation, Panda debt, or borrow from a term loan.
Now, while the governor of the central bank had that to say, Minister Malik Samaravikrama expressed some concern over reaching the FDI targets in Parliament.
As we are aware, the terrorist activities on 21st of April and the subsequent mob violence on 13th of May will adversely affect the economy of our country. As far as the investments are concerned, we will definitely not be able to achieve the targets we have set. Both the local investors and the foreign investors have been thoroughly shaken up with what had taken place on 21st of April as well as 13th of May, where there was mob violence.
Now, what is Minister Malik Samaravikrama saying, and what is the Governor of the Central Bank saying? Now, the Governor of the Central Bank says we are planning on attracting $2 billion into the country before December. Minister Malik Samaravikrama is blaming the situation on the April 21st attacks and claiming that we might not be able to reach our FDI targets. This is a country that had a 30-year civil war, and there was investment coming in during that time as well. Yes, it may be true that there might be a reduction in investments coming into the country after the April 21st attacks. But if you analyze this deeper, after the 2015 presidential and general election, after the UNP-led government came into power, there have been various investments coming in. But were they really investments that came into the country? We remember the Horana tire factory incident. We remember the tallest building in Asia. We remember Volkswagen. We remember the oil refinery in Sri Lanka. We remember the cement factory. We remember all of these investments, the investments that came into the country, and how these investments were marred with corruption as soon as almost they were announced to the general public as well. We remember all of that happening. And if someone, a minister of the government, is coming forward and saying the investors may not come into the country after the April 21st attacks, we have to remind these people who come and make these statements that a bond scam happened in this country. And after the bond scam happened, and after a governor was appointed to the central bank from a different country, a different nationality, came back and went back to his country rather, the investors lost faith and confidence in the Sri Lankan market. That is how the investments were stopped, if at all, and that is how the confidence in the Sri Lankan market dropped. And if Minister Malik Samaravikrama is trying to blame it solely on the April 21st attacks, the country remembers what has happened. Now, the governor claims that we need 2 billion rupees before December, before a presidential election is announced. But we also remember the bond scam. A forensic audit is still to be carried out, and maybe if that money remained in the country and that was not robbed, then there might have been a chance where we do not need money and we do not need borrowings from other countries as well. Now, while Minister Malik Samaravikrama is coming before the parliament and making claims that there are no investors coming, that does not seem to be the case when it comes to emergency power purchases and finding investors for emergency power purchases. We will take you through this story as well. On the 20th of April, Newsfirst reported that a cabinet paper was presented by Minister Ravi Karunanayake for an emergency power purchase of 470 megawatts. Now, the cabinet did not approve this at that time. However, moving forward on the 26th of April, that cabinet paper was readjusted to 200 megawatts and it was presented. On the 30th of April, there were amendments added to this particular cabinet paper. Now, the cabinet paper received approval on the 26th of April. There were two barges that were brought in, one situated in the Kerolapiti area and the other in the Gaul area. That is how the power was to be absorbed into the national grid. These were brought from Turkey as per our initial reports. Now, I told you there were conditions and amendments added on the 30th of April. The condition or the amendments were added were that 200 megawatts will be purchased from these barges, and that the fuel needed for the power generation will be imported by this particular company, and that they will be completely exempted from tax. Now, these particular amendments and conditions did not receive the go ahead from the Cabinet of Ministers. There were objections raised and this did not go ahead. But this particular cabinet paper was presented again, this time not by the subject minister Ravi Karunanayake but by Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe. The value mentioned, 200 megawatts, had gone up to 400 megawatts, and that has received the approval of the Cabinet of Ministers. Now, interestingly, this goes beyond as well. Now, for the first instance, they were going to purchase 200 megawatts from these barges for 6 months, starting from the month of July. But as per this new cabinet paper that has been put forward, power is purchased from the barge in Kerolapiti from July for 6 months, and for 9 months from September onwards from the barge in Gaul. Now, for these particular investments that are being carried out, investors are there. There is no problem for the government to attract people, even when, as Minister Malik Samaravikrama claimed, April 21st attacks happened in our country. And this may be how the politicians, the ministers are lining their pockets. Now, I want to take you through this particular point as well. On our daily reporting, we have reported that there are increased amounts of rains in the coming few days and coming few weeks. And we are going in for emergency power purchases from a foreign company at a time when predicted rains and hydropower can be taken into our system. Though this is 200 megawatts each, the Ceylon Electricity Board has mentioned earlier that they cannot absorb all 200 megawatts at once. And as per the agreement we have reached, we have agreed to purchase 70% of whatever is produced through these barges. 70% means 140. If we even purchase less than 140 megawatts, we still have to pay for 140 megawatts. And as per the cabinet paper, the value of 1 megawatts is 26 rupees and 20 cents. However, the real price, when you calculate all of these factors into the equation, the real value would go up to about 30 rupees. Now, that is also happening while these matters are being discussed. Now, interestingly, this particular topic, the power and energy sector, was debated or discussed at a seminar that was organized by the Central Bank of Sri Lanka. Let's have a listen to what was said there.
The Ceylon Electricity Board, that reported a profit in 2017, has reported a loss of 28.9 billion rupees in 2018. Against such a backdrop, there is a requirement to introduce a price formula that will reflect the cost incurred to produce power. During the production of power, the government supports us with the cost of raw material. It is only if such a price formula is introduced that their operations will be in line market competitiveness. The change took place for fuel prices. Fuel prices change in line with international price trends. The price of fuel is one of the main components in the cost incurred to produce electricity. If the price of electricity does not change parallel to the increase or decrease in fuel prices, the profit and losses of the CEB will also fluctuate. Therefore, the price of fuel changes, other influencing factors should also change accordingly. That is why we propose the introduction of a pricing formula that will take into account these changes. No one will provide any subsidies. The losses incurred by the CEB must be borne by the government or loans obtained from banks. When we obtain loans, we have to pay high interest payments, resulting in the CEB's losses to further increase. The issue now is that fuel prices change, but the price of electricity remains unchanged. It is difficult to operate a company in such a manner.
How do these two stories connect? How does the power and this pricing formula connect? Isn't this a chance, an opportunity taken by the government to put the burden of the price formula also onto the people? Why I'm saying this is because just moments ago I explained to you how the power purchase agreements would result in an unfavorable situation to the general public. We would be paying more when we are not actually purchasing that amount of power. So that burden too is now transferred to the general public. As we are paying more, the price formula will increase the value that we pay for electricity in our country, and that burden too will now be added to the general public, and you and I will be paying an increased electricity bill as a result of all of this. We should also take into consideration that as per the agreements reached with the private power producers in our country, when there is an increase for diesel power manufacturers, that increase is paid already by the CEB to these particular PPPs. Now when that happens, that burden too is now going to be transferred to the general public if there is a pricing formula for power introduced. That is what is going on in our country.